Hello. I'm using my laptop to record this today, which I am not used to doing. So anyway, if it looks a little different, it's not my phone, which is what I usually use. So anyway, I wanted to record this little video for you to give you the some of the reflection or like some of I'm going to say some of the celebration, some of the success. That was a real surprise to me, honestly, from the restrictions that I imposed upon myself during Lent. So some of you may know, I like to observe Lent as the opportunity to just set some boundaries around some things, offer myself the opportunity to experiment with setting aside some things, to then also make space for other things. So yeah, it's just kind of a fun experiment. And yeah, so this year, I decided that the boundaries that I wanted to set for myself were around my working hours, and especially the behind the scenes stuff that I was noticing that it was really like sneaking up on me that I was working kind of behind the scenes, some pretty long days. And so I just wanted to get a little bit more strict with myself, especially around my computer use and that kind of thing. So I actually set myself I didn't set myself. So there was like the work component where I decided that I was just gonna be more strict with myself about only working, 8 hours a day, and including, not only the appointments that I was doing, but also all the behind the scenes stuff. And then I also decided that I wanted to include some restrictions around my screen time in general, especially before going to bed, because I know that I can get a bit hypnotized sometimes as the more tired I get, sometimes the harder it is to turn off that video if I'm watching something later in the evening and that kind of thing. So I decided that I wanted to be more strict with like a 9 p.m. cutoff of like no screens after 9 p.m. And yeah, and I gave myself till 9:30 on the weekend. But anyway. So yeah, and then also around screen time, I decided that I wanted to be more strict with myself around not eating while being in front of a screen of any kind. So so that I could just like, eat, but not check my email or watch anything or anything like that while I was eating, so that I could just be more present for my meals and snacks and everything, just like all of the things. I let myself still have like water, but anytime there was like an ingestion of some nutrients, I really wanted to just be very present for it. So because again, slippery slope, even though a lot of these are intentions that I've had before. Yeah, sometimes I just I was really noticing, especially that for the last while, I haven't been as strict with myself as I used to be, and so I felt like it was good to take some time to just re-solidify that commitment to myself around those things specifically. So so it certainly did present its challenges. One of the sort of unreconciled things was around like reading. I'm one of those people that has like a lot of books on the go. I think I have like, I don't know, 7 books on the go, all nonfiction, all in the realm of various subjects that could be work related, because I am super interested in personal growth and wellness and all that kind of stuff, just for myself, just because I find it fascinating, and also it is my chosen profession. And so So I decided that because I was really feeling this deep desire to just give myself a little bit more time away from anything that could be perceived in my mind as related to work, I decided that I also wanted to include some of the reading material within that, within the time boundaries, which meant that I really hardly made any progress on any of the books that I'm reading right now, which wasn't super satisfying to me. Like, I love to be able to read, especially I love reading before bed. I was hoping, honestly, that I would maybe pick up like a fiction book to read before bed, but I didn't quite get that far. I got a magazine. So that was kind of fun. Yeah, and it was really interesting and kind of eye-opening for me to recognize how just giving myself permission to sit and read a book, even if it's like material that's related to the work that I do, it was actually surprisingly challenging to give myself permission to do that kind of in the midst of the day, in the midst of my work day. So that was an interesting point. And I set an alarm on my phone to help me with my nighttime screen time limit, and that was really, really helpful. We already have at home, we have the Wi-Fi set on a timer. So the Wi-Fi like shuts off automatically. But I gave myself like a little 10-minute, so at like 10 to 9, my alarm went off just to give myself a few minutes to be like, okay, right, if there's any last remaining things like, like setting my alarm for the morning or like anything else that I felt like I wanted to do that had anything to do with screens. I had a little extra heads up to do it fast. And and like I said, that was super, super helpful. Having that alarm really helped me stay within my 9 o'clock boundary pretty well. Like, I don't think that there were many times where I cheated on that one. Unlike the work thing where I completely forgot that the last week in March I had signed up for a work related kind of, I guess, business clinic kind of thing. I don't know. There was a series of little workshops, and because the person who was leading them lives in a different time zone than me, they started at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then I kind of thought maybe I would, hop on the calls and then just kind of do like a split shift, like hop on those calls and then stop and then, continue with my workday later. Because I completely forgot to block off in my schedule so that I would be finished by like 3 in the afternoon. But yeah, once the reality of those 7 a.m. calls kind of set in, after the call was over, it kind of, I was so inspired within that, the material that I was working on. I was just like, I just wanted to kind of stay and make some progress with it right away. So that whole week ended up being a bit of a long week. So anyway, but definitely I was more successful with 8-hour days than I think consistently have been for a while. So that was really great. And and the food with the screen time thing was also definitely had times where it was surprisingly challenging, where I consider myself a foodie, and so like I love food. And I really surprised myself with how often I got really impatient to finish my food because I was so eager to kind of like do whatever it was that would have been pulling me away from my food. And I guess I guess it made me recognize that I've probably been multitasking with that a little bit more than I thought that I was. Because it definitely took some self-discipline to just be like, no, okay, you know what? Like, I'm just going to enjoy my breakfast or whatever meal it was, I'm just going to enjoy my lunch. I'm just going to enjoy, really being present with the nourishment, and also, giving my body plenty of signals that like now it's time to digest, like, just really being present for myself for that whole process and not letting myself look at screens. And I ended up, also feeling like it would be good to not be distracted by, reading anything else or whatever. So I was trying to just be as present as possible with food. So yeah. So anyway, what the wonderful, super happy surprise that I really wanted to share with you is that so I got to rewind and say prior to the beginning of Lent, I had been experiencing some tingling in my thumb, which it had been going on for many, many months. Definitely felt related to, some tension in my upper back where my neck meets my shoulders there. And I had received massage and, stuff like that, which was lovely and would, help, but it was still very present. And sometimes it would be so intense. It started with just my thumb, but then eventually it got to including my index finger. And sometimes when it was really full on, I would feel like a very distinct line up my forearm as well. So it had gotten to the point where it was honestly, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, I know, because as a healthcare practitioner, I know that there's this, I don't know, I feel a little bit of pressure on myself that I am the epitome of health, practicing what I preach and all of that kind of stuff. And so, so sometimes it can be feels a bit vulnerable to share this with you, but, obviously I'm human too. And and so anyway, so this had been going on for many, many months. And it had gotten to the point where it was more often that it was tingly than not. And then it ended up kind of easing off a little bit a few months ago as I started to kind of make some other shifts in some of my self-imposed workaholicness, etc. Anyway, so I am super excited to report there's no tingles at all. And it's been like that for weeks and weeks now. It's like incredible. It wasn't like as soon as I started these restrictions, the switch immediately flipped. But it definitely, like at first I started to notice that like the periods where it wasn't tingly were like getting longer and longer until the point where the balance tipped and it was actually felt like the tingliness was the tingliness was more rare than the non-tingliness, as i.e. like the non-tingly state was becoming the norm again, which was amazing because it's been a long time since that was the case. And then eventually those non-tingly periods got longer and longer and longer to the point now where like I can't actually even remember how many weeks it's been that it hasn't been tingly at all. So hallelujah. I just feel like that is, I was not expecting that to be the thing that I noticed the most. I was kind of, expecting some of the observations that I shared leading up to it, just some little tweaks and insights around noticing how some of these patterns of behavior have gotten a little bit more ingrained than I intended. And, so kind of a little bit of like a course correction. So that's kind of like all I was really anticipating. I had no idea that all of the months of my tingly thumb that I've been experiencing, and I'm like, it's been so long, I honestly can't even remember when it started. It's probably been more than a year, like not that it was like tingly 100% of the time, but that from when that tingliness first started. Anyway, so and like I said, I've been doing all sorts of things to help it along, like as far as doing like self-massage and receiving massage from other massage therapists and stretching and all the things. And it really feels like it was related to just being more strict with myself around boundaries around how long I spend in work-related activities, and possibly a bit around the screen time too, and maybe even, screen time while with food. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, I'm so excited about it. And I was having a little conversation with my thumb the other day, as I was thinking about making this video for you. And, we had this little agreement that it's like, okay, so, I guess it was really related to that stuff more than I was giving it credit for. And so, it sounds like that was the message it was trying to relay. And so if I start slacking on any of those, then it has permission to remind me again by getting tingly again. So I'm super curious now just to see if it does start to get tingly again, if it ends up being related to me slacking off on any of those areas. Because I basically, now Lent's officially over, and I did have to kind of give myself permission to like stay up late watching something over the weekend just for fun. But it definitely feels like holding those restrictions around, setting reasonable work hours for myself and limiting my screen use, especially later in the evening, and especially around food time. Those all feel like really good ideas to just keep going with. So I'm just gonna keep this ball going. I know that the more I continue to have it be like solidified in there, the easier it gets, as with all pattern habit changing and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, this message is probably plenty long enough. You get the gist of it, and I am super curious. Anything you feel like you want to relay, I'm always super happy to hear it. If you gave yourself any restrictions over Lent, I'd be curious to hear how that went for you, and also, any thoughts that you have around restricting screen time and or work time and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, I will leave you with that for now. And thanks again for tuning in. And my heart is beaming out to you. Yeah. All right. Bye for now. Until next time.